Hey guys, welcome back to the Tough Love Podcast with Dr. John O'Connor. Today's podcast is all about perception and reality. Yesterday was something that really hit home for me because after, 25 plus years in healthcare, I was always, kind of taught, even as my upbringing from my parents, is, be kind and be nice to everybody. And it was pretty funny because, two strangers to the practice came in, and I think they were also not really knowing what they were looking for. The one was a genuine friend to the other person that was in need of my care and services. And he was searching out the technologies we use between our MedRay Class 4 laser and our PEMF therapy. And the gentleman was probably a little bit socially awkward, but overall good guy. But he was like just walking around the office and threw my staff into an immediate, sympathetic state where they thought they were under attack. And I'm getting text messages and phone calls. And when I spoke to him, first off, I wanted to understand what was the, purpose of his visit and if it was something we could help him with, or just get a basic understanding. And when he told me what his mission was, I was like, that's a worthy mission, right? You got a genuine friend on your hands there that's seeking relief for a friend that's suffering and has been suffering for like 22 years. And I was like, yeah, I'd definitely take a crack at it. I'd love to help. Let's discuss it. Let's see. And I'll tell you what our technologies do, and you can make the decision whether you want to, attempt it to see if it helps him. But before we got there, the part that really hit home for me was seeing how people look at people, whether it's different shapes, colors, sizes, attire. And, the one thing that I'm learning, and I attribute a lot of that to the amount of self-awareness and coaching and really, kind of rebuilding myself and recreating myself, this last couple of years, is don't look at somebody from the exterior. Listen to what they're saying. Listen to how they're moving, their body language, the way that they're conveying a message. And what I heard when I spoke to this gentleman was, I need help. And once I got through everything else, all I could think about was, can I help him? If I can, God, please let me be clear and make him feel confident that I could give his friend some relief. And with that being said, at the end of the call yesterday, which I think he was blown away that I called him back on my way back from the gym, it was something that went along the lines of, thank you so much. I really appreciated the amount of information and time you spent, and I'm really looking forward to meeting you in person tomorrow. Well, let's fast forward to today. 3:00 rolls around, the office is humming. Again, I definitely am an outlier in the way that I treat and how I deliver care. I was enjoying the patient flow, and then the two gentlemen came in. And, when you see these horror stories in the medical pathway, and nothing against it, right? I mean, again, as a child, I got an MMR shot. I was paralyzed with GBS. It happens, right? I was a statistic, much like this, this guy in his late teens was given a medicine that the consequences or the reaction he had a drug reaction. And he developed terrible facial pain, headaches, and all these different kind of things that he'd be suffering with for, well over 2 decades. And, the reality is now there's options and there's so many things that you can do. And I saw it as a great opportunity for nothing less than to say, hey, listen, my time is valuable, but in this situation, I want them to value my time, and I want them to genuinely know I care, and I want to offer them as much educational information that I can, especially obviously the potential patient. And everything went great, and we wound up treating. And I think the funniest thing about it was that they happened to be, from the Jewish community in Lakewood, that they wanted to bring me the number one rabbi that they were so proud of. I guess he has the number one temple in all of Lakewood. And he said, if you fix or heal him, you would be busy down the street. And I laughed and I said, I don't care where people are from. If there's a need and I can help them with it, I would love to satisfy that need. And, today was one of those feel good days as a healthcare practitioner that, you're not going to fix everybody every day and you're not going to make everybody happy. But some days, just by being a good person, genuinely listening and giving your time and opening up your doors to them is just so rewarding. And that was today. And I have to tell you, in the current events of my life right now, I have two parents that are, not in great shape. And all I was thinking of as I was extending myself in my Dr. O'Connor mode was I would want somebody to give that kind of care to my dad battling emphysema and battling every day just to breathe. And if there was an inkling of hope for him to do better, that doctor made him believe that he's going to do everything in his power to get him there. And with my mom battling breast cancer right now, and the one thing, my sister and I over the last couple of years, have had some differences. And right now, it's like the UN, we're in agreement. We have to have solidarity. We have to take care of our parents. And, we've been shoulder to shoulder on making sure they're taken care of. And, it's a huge transition in your life when you are looking at your parents and you're becoming the parent and talking about bringing in, people to help take care of them and how are they going to eat and how are they going to be transported and making sure they're protected. My mom had been in the hospital for the last couple of weeks and my dad was home. And the one thing that's just remarkably depressing about emphysema or chronic obstructive pulmonary disease is how defeating it is. And it was like yesterday, I was at a convention in Las Vegas and Ed Milet was speaking. And he gave an incredible reenactment of his dad's final days battling, some form of emphysema or chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. And I could see it with my dad. But the one thing that I saw was that his dad had found peace and my dad's not there yet. He's angry. And, and I get it because I'm angry for him. He was a strong man his entire life. He was, this Paul Bunyan tree guy and just a, avid outdoorsman and just super, caveman strong and just, cutting down trees and dragging out trees and deer hunting and just, an outdoorsman that just loved being out in the wild and, just every second he could. To now his outdoor time is battling to go, from bucket to bucket, sitting down, bringing out bird seed and all those kind of things. And again, all I was thinking about today during my patient care was, for all of us as healthcare practitioners or for anybody that's a service provider, is that you never know what people are going through and what they're battling. And it is such an amazing opportunity to just be kind and have a genuine facial expression that is saying, I want to help you if I can help you. And, and the same thing, like, today I was on such a, emotional high in a good way that I even said to them with full transparency, I said, if I don't think I'm going to help you, I am not going to have you waste your money or waste your time. I'm going to make a recommendation. And I think that stopped them in their tracks because they expected it to be some type of salesy thing. And, one of the things that resonates to me on my, my daily work I'm doing in my podcast and listening to podcasts and reading books and, lives versus leads. And, Andy Elliott says this all the time with regards to his team, that if they say that it's a lead, he gets in them because it's somebody's life. It's somebody asking for help. And, I feel like that's our spiritual obligation to rise up, step up, be the best version of ourselves, to provide help to them and give them that sense of, you were in a time of need and I answered the bell, right? I rose to the occasion. I stepped up. And again, it's not always going to be that perfect resolution, but I think that if the person walks away and genuinely feels like you did everything you can or could, I think that's an experience that they can accept and that they can walk away with saying, it wasn't the outcome that I expected, but I have to tell you, they did everything they could. And that was today. And so again, perception versus reality. Today, I wanted to create a reality for anybody that I was interacting with during my care time. And I would tell any of you out there listening that, whether you own a restaurant or you're working, you're an employee, an employer, work on your conviction, work on your ability to convey a powerful message. I spend so much time utilizing artificial intelligence to take a thought that I want to be powerful or emotional or spiritual and say, give me 5 different versions of that so I can work on my ability to deliver a stronger message. And that has been something that's been, ridiculously powerful because it's helping me to evoke an emotion out of the people that I'm communicating with that I think prior I wasn't able to do. And I think when you put that time in, I want that to be a superpower for me, that I can speak and communicate. And first, that starts with listening and hear what they're asking, and then be able to formulate a solution that they feel genuinely that's going to help them. So anyway, guys, today's podcast is short and sweet. It's all about making somebody's reality in what you put into it, beyond their expectations, communicate with power, with a powerful message, and just really genuinely think about being a better person. Today, I felt like I was that guy, and I'm thankful for it. So thank you so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed the powerful meaning behind this message. God bless you all. Thank you. And we'll see you again soon. Take care.